So we're sort of coming to the end of the 2021 playoffs. So I thought I'd look back on 5 players who really disappointed, disappeared, flopped, whatever you want to say, in these 2021 playoffs, obviously relative to expectations. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Starting with Ben Simmons versus the Atlanta Hawks. He averaged 9.9 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 8.6 assists. But obviously those stats might actually be generous to him, especially offensively. He was just terrible. The first thing to talk about is the free throws. He shot 33% from the free throw line on 45 attempts, which, I can do better than that. And it was really horrible. They couldn't really play him late game because they would just foul him. And offensively, he just wasn't aggressive at all, not attacking the rim. We know he doesn't take jump shots, but there's just no aggressiveness from him offensively. Maybe symbolized by that play where he had an open dunk but decided to pass it up to Matisse Thybulle. That really just killed the Sixers' momentum. Joel Embiid actually said it was a turning point in the game. So, yeah, also, he's not shooting, so he's hurting their spacing, let the Hawks clog up the lane, and just was a real non-factor offensively and even hurt the Sixers. So, yeah. He was pretty terrible in the Atlanta series, especially in the fourth quarter, though. He took 5 field goal attempts in all the fourth quarters of the games, I believe. And yeah, they couldn't play him, and when they did, he was really actually hurting them. To be fair, he was still decent defensively, but still, he's got to do better than that, and it was very disappointing for all the Philly and Ben Simmons fans. Okay, moving on, the next guy is Dennis Schroder, who averaged 14 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists versus the Phoenix Suns. And he shot 40% from the field and 30% from 3, which are 2 stats that don't look great. And especially because the Lakers really needed him to step up. He was supposed to be their third best player, someone who could take over when LeBron and AD weren't feeling 100% or were out of the game, and he really didn't do that. Just the shooting was terrible, means you couldn't really play him with LeBron effectively because they were just daring him to shoot and were okay with whatever he did. And then running the bench units, he only had 3 assists a game and wasn't playmaking well. And yeah, was just sort of disappeared and didn't play well at all, and really hurt him financially with this contract. They obviously offered him a 4-year, $84 million extension, I believe, in February, and he turned it down. And now, I think he's going to get less than that because the playoffs, his playoff performance was just not good at all. No spacing provided, no shooting, and no playmaking. So, and he's not a good defensive player either. So he's not Dennis Schroder wasn't really providing much for the Lakers against the Suns. And, if we had played better, could they have won? I mean, maybe. A few of the games were pretty close, but obviously injuries were the bigger problem for the Lakers this postseason, but Dennis Schroder certainly did not help them at all. Okay, moving on to the next guy, Kristaps Porzingis, who in 7 games versus the Clippers averaged 13 points and 5 rebounds, which is less than ideal for a max player and a second star. And he also had less than a block a game and wasn't really making an impact defensively. He shot 47% from the field, which, that could be worse. People on this list have shot worse, but 29% from 3, which isn't great. And the big thing that was damaging was that he couldn't post up smaller players at all. The Clippers would go small versus the Mavericks, and you throw it to Porzingis in the post, and he couldn't take advantage against guys who were 6-7 inches shorter than him. Marcus Morris, Nick Batum, Terrence Mann, whoever it was. He really couldn't do much. Had no post moves and had to settle for inefficient fadeaways or just passing it up and going to stand around the 3-point line, spotting up while Luka did his thing. Yeah, and then even when he was spotting up and trying to provide spacing from 3, he only hit 29% of them, which is not good at all. So, not good offensively at all for Porzingis. And then defensively, I didn't feel like he added much value. When they were playing man defense, I feel he's getting blown by whoever it was. And when they went to the zone, he wasn't even providing rim protection, and the Clippers got a lot of open threes. So, yeah, not a good performance on either end of the floor for Kristaps Porzingis, and it really hurts the Mavs because they really needed him in this series to be that second guy. Luka obviously played phenomenally, and Kristaps Porzingis couldn't be the second option. I don't even know if he is their third best player in this series. Probably not. He's like their fifth or sixth behind like Luka, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe Kleber. I could go on and on, but he just wasn't good on this series on either end of the floor. Okay, next is Joe Harris versus the Bucks. This is in no order, just to be clear. Though Ben Simmons probably was the worst. But anyways, Joe Harris versus the Bucks. He averaged 9.6 points per game versus the Milwaukee Bucks. He was good in the Celtics series, but I mean, come on, they could have won that without him, to be honest. But yeah, 9.6 points, shot 33% from three, which isn't terrible, but is much below average. And for a player like him, who's supposed to be one of the best shooters in the NBA, it was really, really disappointing. And he also shot 35% from the field, so he wasn't doing much inside the arc. And he's not a player who does much defensively. And he missed so many clutch shots, especially in games 3 and 7. He had an open mid-range, he had a couple of open threes, and in game 7, I think he was like 1 for 6. I probably should have looked it up, but I just remember him missing a lot of threes in the OT, in regulation too. And the truth is, if he had shot better, then the Nets probably would have won that series. They may have won it in 4 because if he had shot better in game 3, they would have won that game. And then when you're up 3-0, it's sort of over in the NBA. But yeah, just not good offensively. The shot isn't falling. And I mean, like, a player like Joe Harris is out there for his shooting. And if that's not falling, then it's not going to be great. And he certainly wasn't very good in this series versus the Bucks. Yeah, so Joe Harris, he also sort of looked scared of the moment. Like, maybe it's a thing where, like, I don't want to say, like, he's not clutch, but, like, yeah, he's not really a clutch player, not someone who raises his game in the playoff, but rather someone who maybe shrinks a bit. And that's not good for the Nets because he's on a multi-year deal making quite a bit of money. So maybe they look to trade him, but with that being said, his shooting does bring a lot of value in the regular season, and when he is hitting his threes, he's a very valuable player. Okay, and finally, I have Julius Randle. Maybe this one is a little harsh, given his raw stats, 18 points per game, 11.5 rebounds. You think that's pretty good, but the next things are pretty incriminating. More turnovers than assists, which is very poor for any player, and 30% field goal percentage and 33% from three, which, that's not good at all. And Derrick Rose was really their best player against the Hawks, the Knicks, that is. And yeah, Julius Randle was not good against the Hawks. The main thing is just his mid-range shots weren't falling, and that really hurt him. I also feel like he was getting pretty locked up by the Hawks defenders, which maybe he could have done better on, whether it was Hunter or Collins or Capella. I feel like he has an advantage on all of those guys. With Hunter, it's probably the size. Collins, it's that Collins isn't a great defender. And then Capella, it's the quickness. But he obviously wasn't able to take advantage. And yeah, he had a couple of pretty bad games, had a couple of decent games, but overall just not great. And, it was his first time really being a number one option, and he did great in the regular season, but not so great in the postseason. So, I mean, the answer is just probably working more on his mid-range, making sure he can hit those shots next time. So, we'll see. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Even if he had played well, I think the Hawks still probably would have won that series looking back, even though I predicted the Knicks to win. But, yeah, not a good series for Julius Randle. Okay, so those are my 5 guys. Now, maybe you're asking why no Gobert, and here's my answer, my justification. So, Gobert was great against Memphis, which is the first thing. He averaged 17 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 blocks, which is just absolutely incredible, and he was great. He's probably the best player in that series. And then against the Clippers, he still averaged 13 and 12, which isn't a huge drop off from his regular numbers. Like, let's be honest, he's not really ever giving you much offensively apart from screen setting and rolling to the rim. He also shot 70% from the field, which is also good. And what the thing that was criticized was his defense. How he couldn't play against the Clippers 5 out. But I feel like the Jazz sort of hung him out to dry. It's not his fault he couldn't guard the corner and the paint versus the 5 out. And obviously that resulted in Terrence Mann hitting a ton of threes and the Clippers getting easier layups. And, sometimes I think he could have done better protecting the rim, whether it was Reggie Jackson and Paul George just going right at him. But, he can't do everything. I place more of the blame to the Jazz perimeter defenders who are just letting the Clippers get easy blow-bys and getting to the paint easily. But anyways, thanks for watching this video, guys. Leave a like, subscribe to this channel for more NBA content, and I'll see you guys next time.